Hello, my name is Leah. Welcome to my channel, Dirty Little Literate, where I like to talk about books that are disturbing, weird, disgusting, bizarre, etc., etc. Today I'm going to be doing a part 2 video for 10 disturbing and bizarre book recommendations. And as I mentioned in my last video, I'm trying to go with books that are not horror books or like over-the-top violent books. I'm kind of trying to do kind of some more obscure ones, maybe that I haven't heard in other videos that I've watched of disturbing books on YouTube. Now, the last video was, a theme of like disturbing like sexual books, and that's not the theme of today. I'm gonna be honest, today doesn't really have a theme. They're kind of all over the place with, the common thread being disturbing. The first book that I am going to be talking about today is called The Average American Male by Chad Kultgen. And I read this in high school, and this book at the time, at the age I was at, it really rocked my world. And I've reread this book multiple times, which is saying a lot because I'm not really a rereader. It's been probably at least, 10 years since I've read it, but this one is a very specific brand of disturbing. So the book is about a young guy and his girlfriend, and it's not really about his girlfriend, it's about him, but there's a lot of commentary on his end about his relationship with his girlfriend. And basically, we get access to all of his inner world, his fucked up piece of shit thoughts. So this book basically made me completely mistrustful of men, where I was not before. So in his head, he's just constantly talking about how his girlfriend has a fat ass. And this was before fat asses were a good thing. It's in an insulting way, and just how much he hates her, how much she sucks, how gross she is, how everything about her, he does not like. He basically finds her existence to be nails on a fucking chalkboard, but he is in a relationship with her because, it's a consistent opportunity to get laid. That is all this man cares about, is sex. And the reason it disturbed me so much is obviously there are plenty of dudes that only care about sex. I think the sheer discrepancy and the severity of the discrepancy between what he would say and what he was actually thinking was just terrifying, because most of the time none of the stuff he was saying, she wouldn't really have any way of knowing that he was this truly fucking awful, horrible person. He is just so mean, and just in general, he just thinks everyone fucking sucks. And it scared me because I'm what if there are all these people out there that I think are wonderful, awesome people, and I'm just wrong, and I won't know unless I can have a book with access to all of their innermost thoughts. Also, part of the dynamic is his relationship with his mother-in-law, who he really doesn't get along with. He has a whole spiel where, at one point he kind of sort of gets tricked into getting engaged to his girlfriend. He's not the one who says it, and somehow everybody's putting words in his mouth to make it seem like they're engaged now, and he does not want to marry her. And he ends up going off in front of his mother-in-law and his, now no longer fiance, because he just talks about how much that sounds like the worst thing possible, how much he would never want to marry her, how gross she is, whatever. And the whole thing is just so wild. And this book actually does have a sequel called The Average American Family, and I liked that one as well. Also, he be cheating on his girlfriend, and it's sad because the girl that he thinks all these wonderful things about, where you're oh, maybe he really was just with the wrong person, in the second book, it's grass is always greener. Once you get the person that you want, then you become an awful demon in your brain to them too. So this one is just disturbing in the sense that this is how people operate, and you would have no way of knowing with the people who are super, super, super manipulative like this. Also, just this popped out at me. I feel he was always doing blowjob math. What's the minimum requirements of all the specific actions he needs to take that will earn him at least a blowjob? And we gotta at least hit those numbers so we can get the blowjob. Yeah, I really did like the book though. Obviously, I reread it multiple times. It's kind of like fascinating. There is definitely a lot of like humor in there too. So yeah, it's a unique one. I have no idea how I would feel about it reading it at my age now. You know, I think the kind of like the crudeness of it was something that probably appealed to me a lot more in high school. So who's to say now? The next book that I'm going to talk about actually feels like it has a very similar vibe to the average American male. And this book is called The Oxygen Thief. And this one, the author is anonymous because this is actually a memoir and not a fiction novel, but you know, reads like a fiction novel. You wouldn't assume it was a memoir, but oof, this one is probably more upsetting just because you know this is a real person. And with this one, it's about this man and basically his history of like emotionally abusing women, but it's not your like traditional just like toxic relationship. This man really craves the opportunity to like crush a woman's soul. So he intentionally will look for certain women who he on purpose tries to be like as charming and wonderful as he can in the beginning, getting excited about the fact that like, oh, I can't wait till I pull out the rug from under her and she'll realize she had no idea who she was in a relationship with this entire time, as I'm gonna just demolish everything about her. Like, think of just the most like hurtful fucking horrible thing that your partner could say to you that like you're like, oh well, my partner would never say anything like that. He'd really make someone believe he'd fallen in love with them, and then it's, you know, like he loves the look on their face when he's like, yeah, no, I was never into you, like you're kind of fat, or just like crazy shit like that. Like I don't even remember exactly what it was probably not quite that. The reason this one disturbed me, it's like a similar thing of somebody who is very intentionally acting so different than, you know, what you would expect based on the thoughts they're having, but like his boner for like hurting people, because, you know, there are a lot of people who once they're in a relationship, maybe their insecurities lead them to kind of lash out, or they like try to make the other person feel insecure, so then they'll be more reliant on them. But like, no, he's happy for the breakup. He's totally down for that. The pivotal moment is like right before he's like dumping them, like watching the like soul drain from them. Like he loves that part. And the fact that this is a memoir and he's like writing about this and being transparent, like I get why he wants to be anonymous. Like good luck dating anyone after being transparent about all of this. But this one is actually a series. Like I think he writes 3 different books. It's a trilogy that's like a memoir trilogy, I guess. I will say I definitely liked the first one more than I did the next 2. I enjoyed reading the book, but not in like a wow, I'm having such a good time kind of way. So it did leave me feeling like disturbed and discomforted. Okay, I'm gonna throw in a really fun one here to kind of balance out like the bummery piece of shit garbage human books that I just discussed, which again, I liked those books. It's just the, you know, garbage piece of shit humans in the books that are kind of upsetting. But the next book that I'm going to talk about, I don't think disturbing is the right word. I think, like, I certainly wouldn't consider it disturbing, but I'm putting it on this list because I want this list to be, like, disturbing and bizarre. Like, I feel like, you know, a lot of people who like one like the other, and if you're like me, sometimes I need to balance it out. Like, maybe you have a really disturbing, bleak one, and then you have one that's just so fucking weird and, like, leaves you feeling weird, but in a fun way. And so that's what this one is. This one is called It Chooses You by Miranda July. I have covered another Miranda July book on my channel, and I cannot sing her praises highly enough. If you haven't read anything by Miranda July, I am urging you to. It was such a lovely feeling to discover her in her books. So this one is also interesting. This is also a nonfiction book. I wouldn't call it a memoir because it's not about her whole life. It's about a very specific scenario within her life. It's a really quick read. It's a really short book that has like lots of like pictures in it. And basically the premise of this one is Miranda July was supposed to be writing like a book or a screenplay. She had some sort of creative project that she was supposed to be working on. I don't remember exactly what it was. She was having such a fucking hard time of it. The more she knew she needed to work, the more she would do anything that like wasn't working. So then she like went down this like rabbit hole of like looking at classified ads or like Craigslist of like people just selling weird shit. She would become fascinated with the idea of like, who is this person that's selling a $5 leather jacket? Or who is this person selling scrapbooks of random people? Weird obscure items, like someone selling a broken toaster for $1.50. Like I'm just kind of making it up at this point, but like that's the vibe of all of these items. And so Miranda July decides she actually would like to channel all her time and energy into meeting up with these people, not really because she wants the items, but she's just so curious about like who they are and what's their story. And so the reason I would say this is bizarre is because that is a weird thing to decide to do, to spend a ton of time doing, but it's also bizarre because it seems like she knew which objects would be associated with the weirdest fucking people. And Miranda July, if you read any of her books, she is a very strange bird. She is a weird woman. Her sense of humor is kind of fascinating. And so, like, I don't know about y'all, but like, let's say I have like, you know, a sense of humor where some of my jokes might be weird, or, you know, like I kind of can sense when maybe they won't be well received, or the person is just so like dry and bland that I'm not going to waste like a good solid weird joke on them because I know they're not going to appreciate it. Whereas Miranda July is just herself, like, and you're getting the same jokes and the same sense of humor no matter what. And like her doing that to all these people that like I do not think anything she's like doing and saying is like really clicking for these people. Reading about like the jokes she's saying and just the people like, you know, it's going completely over their head. But also these people really seem like, you know, when you randomly get stuck talking to a stranger in like a scenario where it's like you feel like you cannot escape, like they have trapped you in their small talk and like you don't need to say anything, like you could just nod for 17 minutes and you're not even close to being done, like they don't need any engagement from you, they just really want to talk. That's like what so many of these people seemed like in this book. Like, and the fact that she like willingly wanted to endure this and put herself in this situation. So the pictures in the book are of people that she did end up meeting, and they are strange, and some of them I'm like, oh, I'm kind of uncomfortable that you're in this person's house, because she would go into their houses and then just kind of, she would tell them like, hey, honestly, I actually am not that interested in the object, I just want to know about you, like, are you cool if I interview you? And so she'd interview all these people. So not disturbing, unless, you know, it is also kind of the, you know, again, not disturbing, but like weird for sure, bizarre, yeah, but like, you know, when you watch any type of secondhand embarrassing situation where people are doing embarrassing, awkward things and you like feel uncomfy and itchy, like having to witness it happen, the interactions she's having with these people, like that's what you're gonna feel, because like she's saying something and the person is not getting it and they're just not, I don't know, and some of their houses are gross and creepy, like, I don't know. I think this was a really fun one. I highly recommend. You could probably read it in like 2 hours, to be honest. So this next book, I wasn't sure if I wanted to include on this list because I did not love it. I don't know if I liked it or not. Like, so reading it at first, I was so mad that I was already reading this book because like once I start, you know, I'm committed, and I didn't want to be committed. I wasn't enjoying it at first. By the end of it, I did like it, and I had like wanted to like stick with it and see where it goes, but it's making it onto the list because it's definitely disturbing and disgusting and bizarre and just overall weird as fuck. So this book is called Brat by Gabriel Smith, and this main character is so fucking disgusting. This main character is gnarly, and what's so crazy is the author chose to make the main character have his same exact name, And it seems like maybe there's a decent amount of overlap between the author and the character. So our main character has a conversation with his brother about their childhood home, which is falling apart and nobody's living in it, and so they're wanting to sell it. But because it's falling apart so much, our main character's like, hey bro, I'll go and I will fix everything up, clean everything up. He's totally full of shit. He has like no job. He doesn't do anything at all with his days. He just wants somewhere to like stay for free. So he's saying that he's fixing everything up while meanwhile doing absolutely nothing. And this man starts having some sort of weird skin issue where his skin almost seems like it's like falling off almost, but like he's picking at it and just layers of his skin are coming away. Some of it is like pussy and disgusting. His whole body is looking really gnarly and he doesn't know what the cause of it is, but like he'll really take things to it and try to really get it all out, and then he'll just describe the chunks of skin in such detail as they're like circling the drain, and I don't know, it is a lot of body horror in this one, even though it's not a horror book. I wouldn't say, it's just gnarly body stuff is happening. Meanwhile, throughout the book, it's super weird. He finds a book that I believe he thinks is like written by his mother. Every time he goes to look at the book, the story is different. Like he's reading something completely different, and then sometimes it's just a blank book, and sometimes it's not. He invites random strangers he doesn't know to just like come and like stay in his house and do drugs with him. It's just like a very like unhinged, like mental decline, physical decline sort of situation. And he's trying to convince everyone that like weird things are going on with this book, and everyone's just like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? So it's just a weird, itchy feeling book. If you're gonna skip one book out of all my recommendations, you could skip this one, but also, I don't know, there was something that just compelled me to keep going and then compelled me to tell you about it. I do not recommend reading that one when you're eating. There's just too much pus stuff going on with this one. All right, and the final book I am going to be talking about is Make Something Up, Stories You Can't Unread by Chuck Palahniuk. And so I have covered a short story from one of Chuck Palahniuk's short story books before. This is what I feel is kind of equivalent to that. The one that I talked about was the story Guts from the book Haunted. And this one, oh my gosh, this one has so many gnarly stories I really cannot convey. I read this one so long ago that I honestly didn't really remember much of anything about it other than the fact that I had found it just super fucking disturbing, but in a way that I love because I love Chuck Palahniuk books. There's a ton of short stories in this one, so I'm like definitely not about to detail all of them. To like just give you a couple just so you kind of get the vibe. Like there's one where I think these kids are like in elementary school and they have like a cardiac defibrillator, you know what I'm talking about, one of those guys. So they've been like putting it up to their temples and like and they are giving themselves brain damage, and they're just doing that on purpose, and they just continue to do that. And then everyone's kind of wanting to give themselves brain damage because then you can go back to that kind of like childlike state of peace where everything's like chill and good and fine. I do remember one story where, I don't even know if I should speak this into existence. This is really bad. I don't even know if I want to verbalize it. I think this might be like a high school or college kid, whatever. He is performing cunnilingus on a gal, and both of them did not know she was pregnant, and she has a miscarriage, and the story is called Cannibal. I'll just say that. Oh, that's already... Okay, moving on. There's one story where these parents gift their daughter this really beautiful horse, And then they notice that like people are constantly kind of coming around the house and like whispering about the horse, and everyone wants to know about the horse. Everyone wants to talk about the horse. And they're like, what the hell? Why is everyone so obsessed with this horse? And then they find out this horse was in a bestiality video in which the man in the video ended up dying as a result of his injuries that he sustained while he was doing this sexual act with a horse. And so this is that horse. Apparently the young girl who got this horse, she's been like having her friends pay to like take selfies with the horse. Just all this crazy stuff. I remember there's one story where like some dude is like hooking up with a sex worker every time he would take his baby for a drive, because his baby could only fall asleep if he's driving. So he's doing that like with his baby in the back seat, which is like gross and weird. But there are so many stories. All of them are so wild. I know that Chuck Palahniuk books, like everyone who likes disturbing books like knows about his books. So I know this is not really like an obscure one to recommend, but I just felt like I wanted to put this one on here because I don't think I'd be covering it, but like this is definitely one of those books that just like the vibe of it stuck with me, even if I couldn't remember the specific details, because I don't know if I blocked them, because some of this stuff, it's like, how could I have forgotten? I don't know. So that is the final disturbing, bizarre, weird story that I wanted to recommend to you. Thank you for joining me, since this is kind of a different vibe than how I normally do my videos, but I had fun doing it. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you next time. Bye.